What's up, Nolan? Steven here from Powell's Power Ups. This is your overview video, so sit down and get comfortable. We got your Darkness V3 from SP Sabers. We're going to do the unboxing and overview, so make sure you watch this whole video. That way you know how to properly handle and take care of your Saber so that you don't damage your investment. It's an amazing Saber. This is probably the best one I've done so far, and it's the most up-to-date, and it's really cool. I really like it. I think you'll like it too. So here we go. When you get your Saber, most of the contents besides your main blades will be in your box. So we're going to go ahead and slide off that sleeve, take off the lid, and open up our box. Right when you open it, you'll notice two things on top. This is a Plaque Stand. Okay, it still has the stickers on it, but it's clear acrylic. You can pull the stickers off. Put a little piece of double-sided sticky tape on the back of your plaque. You can set it in there and it'll display your plaque, since we all got plaques with these. Little something extra I wanted to throw in. Next, you have a print off, right? This print off has all kinds of information on it. Mostly it has your breakdown of what your fonts are. So you have 8 fonts on here. You got some from K-Sith, one from Dark Path Media, and some from Kyberphonic. It tells you what movies they're from, because yes, Kylo's Saber sounds different in each movie. And it tells you your blade ignitions and the way that they ignite. Whether you're pointing up or pointing down, or some just are one way the whole time. You also have in here the instructions on, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to bump the camera. You also have the instructions on how to operate the Saber. So this features the newest operating system, which is 6.5. It has FET263's prop file is what it's using for the 2-button controls. There are multiple pages of instructions, and there's tons of things that it does. I'm not going to go over all of them just because there's so many. But just take your time. Pay attention to the fact that right here at the beginning, it states that a click is a short click, right there. Long click is hold the button for 1 Mississippi and let go. And then a hold is keeping the button held down until the action occurs. So keep that in mind as you're reading through these instructions. But as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, I think 4 pages of instructions. Yeah, 4 total pages of instructions. This is the first page. So there's a lot that this thing can do. So keep this handy, refer to it. Take your time to know how to operate your Saber, but it is all here, everything that it does. So you got that. I'm going to set that aside, and then you can open up, remove the foam cover, and we have, boom, your lightsaber. Now, your battery will already be in the lightsaber just for shipping and packaging purposes, but that is okay. The lightsaber will be in a sleep mode, so it can't wake up and operate while it's shipping to you. You'll actually have to put the main button in and push the main button to boot the Saber and bring it to life. So you have here your Ziploc baggie on the side with your Allen wrenches and the main button and the belt. This, by the way, is for your belt clip. If you get the JJ's Industries belt hanger, then you can use this, and this can hang from your belt. So I know you're thinking about cosplaying and doing trooping with it, so this might come in handy later. You got your main blade Allen wrench, you got your side blade Allen wrench, and you got your hilt Allen wrench to take your hilt apart for your button head screws. And then you have your main button, which is magnetic, right? We can see the magnet down inside there for the main blade. So when you get this, to turn it on, you're just going to put your main button in, right? It magnetizes. One click on the button will boot it and bring it to life. You hear the boot sound there, which I use Kylo's helmet sounds for the boot sounds. I think is really awesome. Here on the right side, you have your battery charger for your lithium-ion battery, which is a 21700 5000 milliamp hour. This is the only charger I recommend using for that battery. It's a very high-quality charger, too. So there's your charger. Here on the left side, you have your side blades, right? The 3D printed TPU unstable side blades. We'll go over these in a little bit. We'll put them in. And then you got your plaque, obviously, is still in there. I kept it in its sleeve. I didn't mess with it, but it's in there. So now we will scoot most of this aside, and I will show you how to take apart your hilt everything about the inside. And then we'll put the battery back in, and then we'll put the blades in and do a quick little demonstration. Take it out of the box. So your blade plugs are already inside of it, right? Just for shipping purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and take those out. Your main blade set screw is super tiny. Don't lose it. There's only one. A special note about your blade plugs. I 3D printed plastic covers for the bottom of them because they're metal, right? If they were metal, you would not be able, if you stuck them in there metal, your NPXL connectors, pins there, right? There's current running through those. You would short and fry your electronics, right? But I wanted you to be able to use them. So I 3D printed plastic covers that are glued to the bottom of them so you can use your blade plugs for display purposes. So I'll set those aside. So you got NPXL connectors version 3. Whoops, sorry. Version 3 NPXL connectors from Stock Custom Works. You may notice, you can hear, you may notice your connectors are a little loose sounding. They're not super loose, but you may notice they're not glued down. So I don't glue them down because I want, you know, if something goes wrong and I put all this together and go to fire it up and they don't light up, I need to be able to work backwards and take them out, if that makes sense. There's also, in this Saber, the way it's designed, there's no set screw to hold them in place. So it was either that or glue them in. So I went with option 3. I just make sure that I pulled my wires pretty tight so that they won't go anywhere. So they're not going to fall out. They're not going to come that far out. Just make sure when you're putting your blades in, don't twist. Just go straight in and out for your blades. And then make sure you go all the way in with your blades, and that will, you know, hold them in place. But they're not going to spin or rotate on you. They'll be fine just like that. The wires are pulled pretty snug, so don't worry about that. So to take this hilt apart, you are going to need, or at least I suggest, a pair of plastic or ceramic or non-metal tweezers. This is my strategy for removing the main button, which you'll have to do to disassemble the Saber once it's together. See the little grooves in there? I'm just going to use a little pair of tweezers, grab this in the grooves, and pull straight up. And that will pull it out. There's not really another great way to take it out because it's magnetic, but a nice little handy, you can get these on Amazon for cheap, a nice little pair of tweezers like this that will work well. So that's step 1. Step 2, and by the way, when this button is in, if you lay the Saber with the red wire up, you know, and the button down, sorry, that button sticks up quite a bit, and if you lay it on a hard surface with the button down, it will ignite it. So that's just something to be mindful of. So red wire comes out as step 2. So we just tuck it out of the engine area, slide it, pull it down, straight down out of the first clip right there. Okay, that's step 2. Step 3, we're going to remove the bolts, the button head screws, 1, 2, and 3. So I have upgraded these. I made them bigger. These are M4, and I'll show you the reason why here in a moment. I wanted the hilt to be solid, and I wanted to eliminate all the wobble that it had originally. So the handle, where it inserts here into the upper section, was wobbly, rattling quite a bit, just from the design of the Saber. So to eliminate that, I wanted to thread the handle itself, because the handle, the holes there were just through holes. They weren't actually threaded. But the through holes were big enough, so big that I had to skip M3 and go to M4. And that's what we have here. But now the Saber is super solid and all wobbling has been eliminated. So once you get all 3 of those button head screws removed, you're just going to hold the hilt almost upside down. You're just going to take the handle section, slide it up and off. You can do that pretty quickly. Lay that section down in a box. It's just a hollow shell. There's nothing inside of it. So I'm going to lay it down over here in the box. And then, very carefully, I'm just going to take this shell portion, slide it up and over the Profi board. Careful not to touch any of those metal connections there, because this is metal. You don't want to short anything. But it's down far enough, you should be fine. So this is just a shell. You can set it aside. Now, I wanted to show you. Before, let me show you how I did it. Before, these holes right here for the handles were not threaded. So when I upgraded, I threaded those holes so that, just to show you, so that when the hilt is assembled, the handle section and the upper engine, these 2 sections, are threaded together. And when they're tightened down with all 3 bolts, it's super solid and there's no rattle. That's all been eliminated. So that's what I did with that. All right, notice when this is the core of your Saber, by the way. This is the core. It doesn't disassemble any more than this. You have your upper section here with your emitters, and your lower section here is your chassis. Now notice when I'm handling the Saber, I am handling this by the upper metal section. I'm not handling it by the chassis, okay? Now this chassis is 3D printed, okay? So that means it's plastic. It is not as strong as the metal, so it does have, kind of a weak point right here in the center where it inserts up into this. There's 3 set screws, There's 3 set screws, 1, 2, and 3, that hold it inside. Don't mess with those. Those just stay there like that. But you want to always handle the Saber, here by the upper section where it's metal, never the bottom. But this is your 3D printed chassis, which was it's a matte black PLA that I sanded down and then hand painted with a mix of gold, coppers, to try to match your engines a little bit. It's a little brighter, a little shinier, but that's okay. So we got your black Profi board version 2.2. We got your OLED screen right there. It has the Bluetooth chip sitting under it. I'll show you here in a minute. On the bottom we have your, this is the 2-watt, 4-ohm Saber Merchant premium bass speaker. It is super loud, one of the loudest ones on the market. On the back side here we have your lithium-ion battery, which is a 21700, 5000 milliamp hours maximum runtime there. Big boy battery, lithium-ion battery powering your lightsaber. So this is your power switch there with the magnet that's glued on it with E6000. And then over here is your auxiliary switch, which you can see is sanded on the top because I had to adjust the height on it to get it just perfect. Your little blue wires there have been E6000 glued up here, so don't mess with those. Those are fine there. But yeah, so let's talk about the battery first. Let's talk about getting the battery in and out. The proper way to get the battery out, right? I designed this chassis so that it's super snug and that battery sits in there really snug. So it's not super easy to be able to get out with just one hand, by grabbing it, if that makes sense. And also, if you do that, you put pressure here on the weak point like we talked about. So what you want to do is, I'm just going to let gravity do the work. I'm going to face the battery down, if that makes sense. And I'm going to hold, my left hand here is just holding the upper part of the Saber. My right hand, I'm going to take the Saber and kind of beat it against my right hand a little bit, right here, this metal section, just below the switch, and kind of beat it against my hand, and that, as it's facing down, and this battery will start to kind of just come out on its own. See that? See how it's already starting to come out on its own? Once it does that, then it's easy to get out. Then you kind of just support the whole Saber with your hand. You want to push down against that spring, right? And then you lift the positive end battery up and out, just like that. That removes the battery. When you put it in, you're going to hold it the same way. You're going to push down against that spring. Spring side is negative side. Make sure the negative side of the battery, or the flat side of the battery, goes against that spring. So put the butt down in there first. I'm going to push against that. I'm supporting the chassis with my hand. I'm going to push, use my thumb, push against that spring, and then just push the positive end down into the Saber. Now I'm being really particular with this just because I know this is a weak point and I want you to take care of the chassis and not break it. It is pretty delicate in this state. Once the whole thing is assembled, they have your bolts in it and you're trooping with it, it's totally fine. Only when you take out the battery, just because it's so snug, would I recommend to do it this way. Again, I'll demonstrate. I'm just going to kind of beat it against my hand. You can even do it pretty hard and it'll just fly out like that. Not too hard though, just be gentle with it. I'll put it in again just to demonstrate. And then one more time. Just light taps against my hand just to get it kind of loose and coming out. Oops, sorry. Just did everything all at once. Anyway, there it goes. You just want to get what you're trying to do is you're trying to kind of knock the positive end up and out. That way you can get it out. You can push against that spring. But anyway, I just wanted to go over that a lot with you just to make sure we don't, damage the chassis. Now, if you're going to do anything with your Profi board at all, make sure you go ahead and just take the battery out first. You don't need the battery in if you're going to do any kind of font work or configuration or anything like that. Now that you got the battery out, I'll kind of show you what's going on here. This is a press fit chassis. Your Profi board kind of presses down, fits snug down into the chassis. If you want to access your SD card, all you do is take a little pair of tweezers. Again, we're making sure the battery is out. And we're just going to slowly, let me zoom in a little bit. We're just going to slowly lift up on this bottom end right here, but not where the SD card is because you don't want to break the SD card. But you'll see I just lift up that end right there, just like that. Just so that I can get the SD card out. Just like that. Then I can put it back in. And this also allows you to access the micro USB port right here, which I'll show you. It works best if you make sure when you get a USB cable that you get a data cable, not just a power one. What it works best if you get one of these L-shaped versions, okay? And then when you hook up, right, you're just hooking up like so. You're gently plugging into that port like that. When you're done, you're gently just kind of wiggling it out. You don't ever want to rip that USB port off. I've noticed some people, they do that. They're not careful and they can rip this little thing off the board, and you don't want to do that. When you're done, I said it's a press fit, right? So you're just going to slowly press it back down into the chassis. Again, being really careful of this weak point here. Not, you don't want to push so hard that you break it, but you just want to push down just enough so that the board sits flush down in there. What I'll probably do before I send it to you, I'm probably going to use a little bit of this liquid electrical tape. I'm probably going to coat some of these connections just so that they're protected, so you don't have to worry about anything metal touching them and shorting. Now, the same works for this OLED screen holder, okay? It also pops out just like the Profi board does. You don't need to, but I'm just showing you how this works. But it's just a cover that holds the OLED screen. See it sitting inside of there with the wires underneath? And underneath of it is your Bluetooth chip. Just sits down in there. Now I'm just showing you this. You don't need to ever take that out for any reason. But I just wanted to show you what was in there. And then I will tuck it back in there. And it just presses down into that as well, just like the Profi board does. But the wires got to be just right. It's like a puzzle. So that's why I don't want you doing it. So it doesn't sit down all the way, but it sits down most of the way, just enough to sit in there and be snug. All right, we're gonna put the battery in now. Again, negative goes against the spring, right? Just gonna kind of push it against that spring. Use my thumb to pop it in. So you get your Profi operating system 6.5, showed you what operating system you're running on as it boots. Next, this is the power level indicator that you just saw there. It tells you your battery. When you tap your auxiliary, You switch.
Son of darkness.
You switch fonts.
I'll let nothing stand in our way. My boy. Wherever you are. Kylo Ren.
And it tells you what the fonts are. When you trigger, when you activate, you got a little crystal in there, like a crystal chamber, but it's on the screen. When you turn off, you got your power level indicator again there. And then it goes off after a second just to conserve power. Your Bluetooth chip, you'll need to go to the App Store, whether you have Google or iPhone and you want to get the Force Sync app. And you'll connect to it. You want to pair it to the Bluetooth. It's actually listed as like FSC BT LE 909, I think, is something like that. And then the pairing code is 6 zeros. And then that will remote control it. Now we're going to put it back together. And I will put the blades in to do a demo. So first we slide on this sleeve section here with the gash up towards the blue wire. Just being careful not
I'll show you the dark side.
Being careful not to touch the Profi board. You might trigger the buttons as you're doing this. That's okay. It's because this is loose and not secured until we screw it all together. Then this that gash in the handle there, that little opening, is what lines up with the auxiliary button here. Right? Then I hold it together like this. I line up all the holes. And I start to put in my screws. Now I just start the threading. I don't actually tighten it down until I get all 3 in. And I like to tighten down this one all the way first. So I'm just gonna getting them started in there. I'm not threading them down all the way yet. Once I get all 3 in there, then I go ahead and I tighten down this one all the way first. Kind of wiggle it, get all the loose out of it. Then I do this, and then I do the sides. Careful not to over tighten or strip these. I noticed that's something that the metric screws do a lot easier than our, what do we call ours? Imperial or something? Next, you're going to slide in your red wire through that clip. Take your time with this. Just feed it through there, and then you just tuck it into the gash. Kind of press it down in there, like so. And then, lastly, you can drop in your switch. You have gesture controls. You can twist off is always how you go to off. Now, if you want to turn on, you have 2 options. You can twist on just like you turn off, or you can thrust on just like Kylo in the movie. Aux button is this bottom one here, by the way.
I know what I have to do.
Next, I'm going to get the blades in, and we're going to do a little demonstration. I'll show you this thing in action. So I'm going to start with the side blades. I like to do the side blades first. It's a little easier. You're just going to push these straight in against the spring-loaded pins and then tighten down the set screws. I like to turn it on when I do this because you can sort of make out the top and the bottom of the strips, and I like to face them up and down. But just for time's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and put them in. I'm not going to like do all that nonsense. Let's see here. So these are really tiny set screws. You only got these ones, so make sure you don't lose them. Now these are made of a clear TPU material is what it's called. I don't trans something, poly something, acid something, kind of plastic, rubber adhesive, hybrid stuff. It's pretty squishy, but so you don't have to worry about breaking them. All right, so now I'll put in the main blade. So I'm gonna go ahead and adjust the camera. All right, so you got, let me show you your main blade here. You got your 32-inch, right? Your shorter one for like trooping and things like that. And then you have your longer 36-inch, more screen accurate blade. So you have a unstable sleeve, a base sleeve, right? That kind of matches your side blades to kind of have that unstable look at the bases. This, just as you see, slides on and off. Right, so you can put it on the 32 if you use that, or you can put it on this. Put it up a little bit, and then you'll put in the blade and then slide it down. The reason why I don't do this all the way up, and I get asked about that all the time, is because NeoPixel, we have all these fancy effects here, and if you put this stuff all the way up, it really takes away from those effects. And at the same time, I like a light blade, and if you have this TPU stuff all the way up it feels like it adds like 5 pounds to your main blade. It makes the Saber feel very heavy. So when you're putting in your main blade, no twisting, you're just pushing it straight in. And this is that really tiny set screw. So be careful with it. Don't lose it in the carpet. And take your time. You're going to screw it down pretty tight. You don't want that main blade moving around, but you don't want to strip this either. So once I get it in, like I said, you're just going to slide down that sleeve. And that is your whole lightsaber fully assembled. It takes a while to do, but take your time, treat it delicately. But once you get it together, you have a lot of runtime with this big battery. I mean, that's the biggest. It's not the biggest, but it's one of the biggest batteries you can get for your Saber. Let me kill the lights. Do a little demonstration for you. So you got your clashes there. Blaster deflection. Lock up. You got, let's see what else I know how to do. Force effects. So anytime you trigger a force effect, you get a white unstable effect for about 3 seconds. I didn't know how to trigger it.
Darkness rises and light to meet it.
And you get a quote from the movie, from Kylo Ren or whatever, whoever it is, like Supreme Leader there.
I'm sure you are.
So, with the new operating system, one really unique feature is if you're pointing up, you get simultaneous blade ignition. All 3 blades come on at once. If you're pointing 90 degrees or down, you get staggered. Now, every font is different, though. Some of them have staggered, some of them don't, but you'll have to refer to the paperwork to see all that.
I killed Snoke. I'll kill you.
Super solid Saber after I upgraded the bolts. You also have background theme music. I think you got to be pointing. I'm not familiar with the controls yet. Yep, I got it playing now. So I activated the theme music. You can change tracks and stuff too. I don't know how yet. It's on the paperwork. So I turned it off. Yeah, man. Let me see how you do lightning block. Nope. Oh, lightning block. You can change colors. Hey! Let me find red. Yeah, man. So there it is, dude. The Saber is complete. I will get it boxed up probably tomorrow, get your address from you, and ship this thing out to you on Monday. Hope you enjoy it, dude. It is a freaking amazing Saber. Take your time with it. Treat that chassis like it is a brand new baby. Don't drop it. Or don't break it. Thanks, dude.